When you hear about a scandal or a controversy, what's the first thing that comes to mind? So after shock, you may be disappointed, you may even be angry. You may have looked up to the person and feel let down by their mistake. However, I think it's very important that we acknowledge that anyone can make a mistake. Now, I'm not referring to criminal wrongdoing that involves the victimization of others. That is another category. I'm merely talking about ethical lapses that we see so often in headlines that upend a person's life and career. And I'm making this video as I'm reflecting on recent controversies and scandals in the news involving New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell, but I'm also thinking about Fawn Weaver, completely different situations, and just so many other stories that I've heard this year and recently about people who we looked up to who made a mistake. And what occurs to me is that, most people don't set out to make catastrophic mistakes that end up in the headlines. That is not the intention of most people when they launch a business or when they run for office. Most people want to do the right thing, but good intentions are not a defense. And that's what I want to leave with you today, is that good intentions are not going to protect you. I think that, like I said, most people don't wake up deciding that they are going to make a mistake that's going to upend their lives. Instead, sometimes what happens is they compromise, or they cut corners, or they do something, no one holds them accountable, and then that thing becomes like a pattern or a way of being. And before a person realizes that they made a catastrophic mistake. And if you ask some of those people who've made life-altering errors about their mindset, many will tell you that they had the best of intentions, right? But like I said, good intentions will not protect you. Good intentions are not inoculation. I think it's very important for all of us, especially leaders, to have guardrails that keep you safe. Now, each of us, it doesn't matter if the person has certain weaknesses and certain proclivities and things that has to be managed. And if you are at all self-reflective, or if you listen to the feedback, you probably know what those areas are in your life. And so I think the task becomes putting in place guardrails that will keep you from going too far to the right or too far to the left. But if we operate from the premise that anyone can make a mistake, the question becomes, okay, so what are we doing to manage what could become a large issue? And guardrails can be people, they could be practices, they can be policies. For instance, one guardrail might be having multiple layers of review for financial transactions. Another guardrail might be having people in your personal and your professional life who can ask you questions about anything. You are accountable to those people. And when these people speak, unlike people on the internet, you take what they have to say to heart. So there are a variety of different guardrails that we can put in place. But in order to put a guardrail in place, it requires a level of humility to acknowledge, I am not perfect. I struggle in this area, or I've been told that I struggle in this area. And so I want to do some things proactively that will protect me. I think the other thing that I want to leave with you as I think about these recent controversies is there's no such thing as a perfect leader. We know that there's no such thing as a perfect person, but sometimes we see people who appear to have it all together. Maybe we see people who have checked off every box that we hope to check off. And so what happens is we can bestow on them benefits and character traits that they have not earned. Or we look for the perfect person, and when we think we found them, we put them on a pedestal. But there's no such thing as a perfect person. Even the best person who you may know, they're struggling with one thing or another, or they're subject to fail, myself included. And so I think if we walk through life understanding that there's no such thing as a perfect person, there's no such thing as a perfect leader, we may be less disappointed when the people who we look up to fail. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. We're all struggling with something, whether we readily acknowledge it or not. We're all struggling with something, and we all have areas in our life that we need to manage. So Yeah, so that's what I have for you. If you like this content, please be sure to subscribe. You can also leave a positive comment. And by the way, we talk a lot about leadership on our blog, The Pitch. So take a look at that. You'll receive leadership tips as well as PR tips and practices that can help you protect your brand, but also build your platform. Thanks for listening.